Welcome to Autodromo here in Valencia.
Are you ready for pure racing?
Welcome to Italy. Welcome to the outside surrounds of Rome. This is the Autodromo Vallelunga, and this is the second round of the 2025 NASCAR Euro Series season. We've travelled from Valencia and Spain over to Vallelunga for our broadcast of the weekend for the second round of the season, and based on what we saw in our opening round, this is going to be a very compelling weekend. If you were with us last time out at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo, there were new race winners, new championship leader, someone who's never led a championship before. That is Thomas Chrysonis. He's the leader of the Pro Championship. Took his first win in the Open Division on Saturday in Valencia. His first win in the Pro Division on a very compelling situation unfolding for PK Carsport's newest driver, one of many new alliances that seems to be going from strength to strength in the early stages of this season. Coming into this weekend then, your are as follows. Thomas Chrysonis in the pro class on 75 points. He leads the championship by 1 over Paul Giuffreau of RDV Competition. The rest of your top 5, Vittorio Gorelli, Ivan Muller, yes, that one, again this weekend as well, after some speculation that Valencia would be a one-off. And then rounding out the top 5 in the standings is Liam Hasemans, who is also third among the juniors behind Chrysonis and Giuffreau. The first of the Challenger Trophy drivers down is David Kajaya, one of our Georgian racers, and they've had a shift since last time. They have moved over from a car run by Marco Stipp Motorsport, who aren't here this weekend, to a car run by RDV Competition. More on that later on. To the cockpit of Gianmarco Ercoli, the number 11 Illumitech Racing Ford Mustang. That car is going to be one to watch. That car is going to be very compelling to watch because it is, of course, town heroes. Gianmarco Ercoli will be looking to make an impression on the event. As of course will Vittorio Girelli, our defending champion. Girelli, who has really cut his teeth at this circuit in particular all throughout his career. He's fun to watch in the PK Car Sport machine for sure. Of course, it will be the pro qualifying that comes out onto the circuit first, so we focus on the pro division for now. But coming out of the first weekend of the season, I don't think anyone would have necessarily seen Bonus as the championship leader. We expected him to continue his steady progress up the ranks in Euro NASCAR competition. But Andre, I mean, that was such a surprise to see him land on his feet to such an extent at PK Car Sport that he's now our championship.
Yeah, hello and welcome also from my side here from sunny Italy. Yeah, it was a big surprise in my opinion what we saw back in Valencia. We saw a very competitive Thomas Krasonis in Pro and also in Open. Yeah, we have the number 13 car of the Greek. Let's see what's going to happen here on home soil of his teammate Vittorio Girelli, the 24 car of PK Car Sport. I guess that Vittorio is trying everything to keep his teammate behind, especially here at his home race. So I expect a very interesting battle between Krasonis and Girelli inside of the PK Car Sport pit box. So 24 and 13, two cars we have to take a look at.
Yeah, absolutely right. An expansion, of course, this year for PK Car Sport, running an additional machine. 24 car is now running across both classes. Last year, it was one of very few cars that stayed in the pit box during what was then Euro NASCAR 2, now known as Euro NASCAR Open. But Thomas Dombrowski shares the car with that man, Vittorio Girelli, in this week. Will do that for the season. Meanwhile, Thomas Krasonis is one of many drivers who does both divisions, Euro NASCAR Pro and Euro NASCAR Open. Of course, one thing we know for certain is that Thomas Krasonis can only do this for one more year, because if I remember my regs correctly, once you've won a Euro NASCAR Pro race, the Euro NASCAR Open is no longer open to you from the following season.
Yeah, we have to take a look at what they're going to do with the regulations for next year. But I guess that Thomas Krasonis wants to walk the path to go pro only and fight for the pro title. So this is the goal for every driver in the NASCAR Euro Series. You go to Open, maybe you even start in the Rookie Challenge, then you go to Open, prove that you're competitive in one of those V8 cars, and then you make the step up to Pro. And then you want to become the European NASCAR champion. And of course, the NASCAR Euro Series may be also a ladder to go to the US and race there. Thomas Krasonis, he has a plan, he has a goal, he wants to be in a contention for titles in Open and Pro in 2025. And then we see what's going on afterwards, because in the end, everybody's trying to get the championship ring in Pro and put his name into the Hall of Fame in Charlotte for the NASCAR Euro Series. So yeah, let's see what he's going to do, but I think it's going to be a great battle. And here we have Paul Jouffreau driving the number 3 car for RDV competition, also one of our title contenders in Pro. He was already in contention for the title in 2024, and I expect he may be also one of the title contenders, but also race winner contenders here this weekend at Vallelunga.
Always a contender, Paul Jouffreau for sure. RDV competition, really a leading force at this stage. And surprised that when certain teams look for greener pastures, they turn to RDV. That's what David Kajaya and Sandro Tavat-Kalatza have done after the first round of the season. They've moved over to RDV Team Georgia by is strictly the entry there. As you can see, sub 60 seconds left on the Strom Watches clock, and that is indicating that we will be doing green in just a few moments. And of course, Andre, if someone missed the Riccardo Tormo broadcast in today, they might not know quite where we are in terms of qualifying format. New qualifying format for this year in the Pro class, and a very interesting one at that, based on what we saw at the first round.
Yeah, we're going to have the single car qualifying here at Vallelunga. We saw it already in Valencia. Single car doesn't mean that we only have one car on track. We have small groups, but with gaps between the cars. So they all have 2 flying laps without any traffic. And they have to nail it in those 2 laps here in Vallelunga. So the pro qualifying, a very different format from the past, and also that means that everybody's on the same tire starting into the race, because you get one set of Bougier tires before qualifying, and those tires have to last qualifying in 2 races over the weekend. So it's going to be an amazing battle for the Stromo Watches Pole Award here today in Pro First.
Now, last time out, it effectively worked that most teams, at least, they did their outlap. Their first lap was effectively an extension of the preparation period, and only the second flying lap counted for much for a lot of people. Do you expect the same here, Andre? Have you heard anything down in the pits from anyone as to whether or not hammer and tong for both flyers, or will it again be almost 2 laps of preparation for just the one opportunity to get a real time on the board?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I talked to Vittorio Ghirelli, for example, in Valencia, and he told me he never tried to give up the first lap. He just made a mistake and then focused on the second lap. So his intention was to have 2 attempts, 2 flying laps, and go full throttle for 2 laps. Other drivers struggled a little bit getting the heat in the tires and the tire pressure up, so they were just faster in the second run because of the setup of the car. So in my opinion, in Pro, the teams and the drivers still need to find the right tire pressures and also the right setup for qualifying because of the new format. So in my opinion, everything can shake up a little bit again, depending on what the teams and drivers found after the learnings they made in Valencia.
We'll watch this session with close interest. Some interesting names by the looks of it in this first group. That's Mikael Bleikemolen leading them off in the number 72, and then behind him is Garrett Lowe. Garrett, who of course was right up there in the top 10 for both races in the Circuit Ricardo Tormo. One of the more interesting stories among the rookies for this year, of course, Garrett Lowe, an NASCAR star among many other sports commitments, and now moving into Euro NASCAR, having also done some short oval racing and some road course racing in the United States. So Garrett starting a little bit early here. He's going to get his qualifying time in fairly soon. In fact, both of the promotion cars look like they're out for this first batch then, so that's interesting. Julian Reberg and Garrett Lowe will be hoping to get a competitive time in early, and you wouldn't rule out, based on his qualifying performance last time, that Garrett Lowe is potentially runner in this qualifying session, but he's going to be potentially facing slightly less rubbered in track than some of the others.
Yeah, definitely. He had some issues in free practice. The running order in qualifying depends on the combined free practice results, and we see that Garrett Lowe had almost no times on the time sheets because he had a contact with a wall. He had some issues shifting down, and then the power came back into the car and he went straight into a wall. So the team had to replace the front bumper and also work on the front end of the car. We hope, of course, that the 99 is at 100%. And information about the 77 car, they ran the old gearbox, 4-speed gearbox in Valencia, but with a shifter command, so it's a sequential shifter. But now the 77 has also the 5-speed sequential gearbox from Samsonas installed in the 77 car, so it's a completely new environment for Julian Reberg and also for Happy Nessa racing later in the open division. So Garrett Lowe, first time that he had to adapt to a new situation after a setback in a free practice. He didn't get much practice time. It's a completely new track for him, so let's see what he's doing. But here we have Michael Bleekemolen in the Team Bleekemolen car. Let's see what the legendary driver from the Netherlands is capable of doing here.
Yeah, Michael Bleekemolen, a driver who has there is to do in the world of motorsport over the years, be that Formula One, be that sports car racing at just about every possible level, and of course the patriarch, I should say, of the Bleekemolen racing, as it were, Jeroen and Sebastian, of course. Both racers, and we see Sebastian here in the NASCAR Euro Series. Bleekemolen in previous years has run usually in Euro NASCAR Open. This year he's in Euro NASCAR Pro, so still very much not a new challenge, as it were. And the 75-year-old ex-Formula One driver, once a championship contender and a runner-up to Alain Prost in European Formula 3. Is once again out there and running well. For Garrett Lowe, this is an uphill battle, though, because track experience coming into the weekend and limited laps in free practice. I'm sure he's been on the sim, surely, given his background, but that is still a big loss in terms of learning time around the Autodromo Vallelunga. Number 9 car then, new look, new vehicle for Team Georgia by RDV, as they now are, and certainly when you kind of take that bet on yourselves and decide to switch garages, as Kajaya and Tavakalutza have, you need to perform. These boys need to show that their suspicions were correct and they can be further up the grid.
Yeah, definitely, and they also face a new challenge. Also, they run the 4-speed gearbox with the sequential command in Valencia. They have now the 5-speed gearbox as well equipped in this number 9 car serviced by RDV competition. So we see David Kajaya on track right now. That meant that he had no good time in free practice. He's also in the last group. We have now the slowest drivers from free practice, the first on track, and the fastest drivers coming later and later. So the fastest driver will be the last one on track. So it's a slight advantage, we think, for the better drivers from free practice in this qualifying session, as the track is getting rubbered in and you get more and more grip. Garrett Lowe, you said it before, he needs to find the correct line in Vallelunga and somehow compensate a little bit that he lost a lot of free practice time. But what I saw from him in the past, he is a driver making almost zero mistakes. He finds the speed quite quickly. He's really good in adapting to new tracks. So I would say he's still able maybe to get a decent time. I think we have the first times in.
Yes, we do. So Garrett Lowe, time on the track prior or not, a 1:42.55.80, crosses the line once again now. And I don't have the time on my screen as of yet, but we are seeing final lap time set. I think it's simply that Garrett Lowe's lap wasn't an improvement. Julian Reberg goes for a 1:43.116. Let's see what Kajaya lap. It was only a 1:45 on lap 1. Comes across the line, and on my timing screen doesn't appear to have improved. Never mind, my timing screen was a little slow. A 1:43.194 for Kajaya puts him behind Julian Reberg and Garrett Lowe. His second time was good enough for a 4th position, a 1:43.3. Michael Bleekemolen, I think, has now done both laps, and it was a 1:46.162 for him. But Garrett Lowe, with what sounds like half dozen laps on Friday, here he is on Saturday, setting a very competitive time. Now, based on what we've seen around this circuit before, 1:40.8 is the quickest race lap we've seen around here. I don't see Garrett Lowe's time standing for a top 5, but still looking strong given the deficits he faces.
Yeah, definitely. And we have to keep in mind that today it's a little bit warmer than yesterday in free practice. Yesterday we had a lot of wind. It's also, of course, affecting the grip of the cars. So we need to wait a little bit to really understand where Garrett Lowe is going to be. I saw already the 21 car on track. That is the car of Jack Davidson, a Euro NASCAR race winner from last year at Brands Hatch. He won his home race. We also have Mark Goossens in the number 1 car on track for Academy Coffee Motorsport. So an interesting group coming up next.
Yeah, it is an interesting group for sure. Let's see how they all perform there. We saw that pink beast from the Lux Motorsport team, of course, Jack Davidson. He will be one to watch. There's the 89 car coming in of Max Maserati. So he's done with his pro session, but on the circuit there is the 33 car. That is Florian Richard's car in open. Of course, it's Giorgio Maggi's car in the pro division. Giorgio again back in the series, back in Euro NASCAR after some time away. Of course, sports car racing, some GT racing. I think he might have actually run here at Vallelunga last year while he was taking his time away from the world of Euro NASCAR, since he was racing in Italian GT. But Giorgio Maggi always one to watch, and looking for a better showing than he had in Spain, because he only registered an 18th and 19th place classification.
Yeah, he had some technical issues on his Speed House car. The rear axle had some issues also. His engine shut down, and then out of the sudden it was working again. So they tried to figure out what happened there. Giorgio Maggi has the pace to be inside of the top 10 for sure. And Jack Davidson, he made the step up to pro after 2 really good open seasons. He's one of the aspiring drivers we have here in the NASCAR Euro Series. The Lux Motorsport team is his own. It's a family team from Scotland, and he already proved that he can be fast in this championship. And the 21 car, of course, always a fan favorite with those pink colors, always an eye catcher for sure. I can tell you, Adam, my daughter, for example, and she's just 3 years old, she loves the car.
That's awesome to hear. That's a fan favourite machine then, potentially. You certainly can't miss it, which is useful for commentators as well. There's your number 14, Ulysse Delso. Of course, Delso, another driver who I think will be looking for some slightly better runs than he had in Valencia. A solid 11th in the first race of the season, but only classified 21st in race 2. So a mixed bag for Ulysse Delso in Valencia. Some top 10s would certainly cure what's ailing him coming into this weekend. We'll see how everyone stacks up then on the timing screen. Garrett Lowe is the benchmark, a 142.558. Jack Davidson has just crossed the line for the first time for a 144.2. So again, I know whether it's a problem. It's still seemingly that the first lap isn't quite as competitive. Giorgio Maggi, a 43.8. We've just seen across the line there the number 14 of Ulysse Delso. He does a 144.2. And there is the number 1. The Academy Motorsport machine of Mark Goossens. Let's see what the Goose can do on his first flying lap. He comes across the line now, and it is good enough for 8th position, a 45.625. Again, not the kind of pace we'd expect 1 second laps look like. It looked to me as though Mark Goossens maybe strayed a little wide there and had to lift off the throttle a bit going downhill.
Yeah, I think it's all off to the second lap of this pro qualifying. What we saw in Valencia is confirmed also in Italy. You need a little bit of time to get the air pressure right, to get the heat into the tires, and also, of course, to the brakes. And therefore, it's basically a one-lap shootout. And let's see if Jack Davidson is now able to improve his lap time. At the moment, 1:44.28. Here's the checkered flag for Jack Davidson. And we wait for the update on the timing screen, but I don't see any update. No, it's there. It's a 1:43.054. Now he's a provisional second in the order behind Garrett Lowe.
Let's see what the number 33 can. Then Giorgio Maggi's crossed the line. We eagerly await an update. I'm not sure one is coming. A 43.3 puts Maggi fifth. What about the number 14 of Ulyss Delso? We just saw him cross the line. Will he improve on a 44.2? Yes, he does. A 42.8 puts him up to provisional second. And what about the experienced and venerable Mark Goossens? What's he got under his sleeve for the final time? Across the line goes Mark Goossens. A 45.6 will surely be beaten, and it is a 42.8. But Garrett Lowe remains on top. He's going to have the uncomfortable honour, I suppose, of watching people try and depose him in the following runs. And for now, no one's managed to do so.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit like in winter sports. When you are the best in ski jumping or downhill, you always have to sit there on the throne and wait for somebody to kick you off at the first position. But I think you said uncomfortable. I think as long as he sits there, it's comfortable. But he knows group after group, I'm still better, I'm still faster. But now we saw already Ivan Muller going out there. We see Max Lanza, we see Claudio Capelli lining up. By the way, that's Pierpaolo Ciceri, who's managing the cars right now, one of the Euro NASCAR officials. And also Benoit Martinez with the camera. He's also responsible for the highlights we have on our Euro NASCAR YouTube channel. So if you want to watch the Valencia race, maybe between qualifying and race one, the extended highlights, just take a look. You can catch up with the action we had at the season opener. Here we have Claudio Remigio Capelli in the Academy Coffee car.
Yeah, Claudio Remigio Capelli, another sure has a lot of support in his garage and indeed in the stands as well. Ever popular Italian driver anyway. Wherever he goes, he always draws a crowd on the pit walks and the grid walks and stuff like that. But at the American Festival of Rome, I'm sure that he is particularly going to be backed by the crowd. There we see the 64 car as well, of course, Vladimiros Siortsis, who got his first top 10 of the year in Valencia in the first race of the season. But we know his ambitions and sights run higher than that, because, of course, we've seen him run at the tippy top of Euro NASCAR previously. There is Ivan Muller in that number 34 car. I always had the feeling that one-off wasn't going to be the reality for Ivan, given his comment to you after the first race in Valencia of all the ways he can improve and be better and X, Y, Z, and sure enough, he's back here in Vallelunga.
Yeah, and he's not really saying that he tasted blood. He still says, I want to optimize the setup of the car, understand the car more and more as a team boss. And it's easier to understand if you're driving it by yourself. But maybe at some point of the season, maybe we hear something else from Ivan Muller. It maybe depends also where it's going to be in the standings after Vallelunga. But of course, I'm born in the 90s, early 90s, and I saw him racing in so many different championships, and it would be amazing to have Ivan Muller full season in Euro NASCAR. Here we have one of our local heroes, the 88 car fielded by Cal Racing. That's Max Lanza, always putting a lot of effort into his home race, inviting a lot of guests, having a nice hospitality, bringing fans really close to the car, and that's what NASCAR Euro Series is about, bringing the fans close to the cars, close to the drivers, open access everywhere in the paddock. For example, when I'm going to do the pole award interviews, we're doing it in a public area. So as a fan, you can stand next by, watch the interview, and then talk to the pole sitters. We are not in a restricted area or something like this. We do it in a public area, and that's what NASCAR Euro Series is all about. And Max Lanza is one of the guys really living it.
Yeah, Max Lanza is always really living it. I think that's a pretty consistent theme with him. Third in last year's Challenger Trophy standings, of course, and the winner of the regular season in Challenger Trophy. He was leading prior to the double points playoffs at the tail end of the year. Here comes Vladimir Siortsis across the line. What can he do versus what we've seen before? Ivan Muller has crossed the line already on a 43.4, so once again, doesn't look like we're seeing much in the way of hugely competitive times on that first lap. Of 43.395 for Vladimir Siortsis. Second lap is going to count for everybody. Of course, these Hoosier tyres are very durable indeed. We see that on a consistent basis, given they do qualifying and both races on the same quartet of tyres, but that does sometimes mean that getting heat into them to begin with does the number 5 car of Claudio Reggio Capelli. That was a little bit abrasive on that curb, wasn't it? He did well to land that correctly, although I'm not sure that he had much control once he was in the air. Here's Ivan Muller then through the last couple of bends here. Let's see if he can improve upon a 43.4. He was of course running in the top 5, fighting for podiums last time out at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo. He will want at the very least, although he hasn't done quite as much racing here at Vallelunga over the years. Let's see what Ivan Muller's lap time looks like. He's come across the line, but I'm still waiting for it to update on my screen. A 42.878 for Ivan Muller. That's only good enough for 4th. That's a little bit of a surprise in the session that he's not made more of an impact. Vladimiros Siortsis across the line. Let's see what Vladimiros's second lap time looks like. It should be an improvement. It looked like a fairly strong lap, and it is a 42.273 for Vladimiros Siortsis. That's a mighty lap time. And what can he do? As he got top 10 pace, he was 11th before crossing the line on that flying lap, and it doesn't look like there's been an improvement, or is the time just very slow to register? It's the latter. 42.978 puts him in 6th fastest, and Claudio Remeggio has just gone top, a 42.114. Claudio Remeggio Capelli has done a lot of miles here over the years, and he's used that experience to put himself top provisionally.
And that with the slide he had on his second lap. So he did not lose too much time there. Can you drift a stock car? Yes, you can, and you can do it fast. Claudio Remeggio Capelli, he proved that here at Autodromo di Vallelunga. It's of course also his home race. We saw Sebastian Blekemoen already going to the track. I think then we also have Martin Dubek and Fabrizio Ametta. I wasn't sure what was the 4th car. It looked like a little bit the 3 car, but I'm not pretty sure if it was the 3 car of Paul Giuffreau. We have to wait a little bit to confirm, but here we have the reigning Open champion from the Czech Republic, Martin Dubek, pulling double duty in Euro NASCAR Pro and Euro NASCAR Open. He's going to be in the 7 car in both divisions, and yesterday he told me I'm better in group qualifying. This 2-lap shootout, it doesn't suit my racing style. He needs to improve a little bit to this new format. So let's keep an eye on Martin Dubek if he found something or not. But Sebastian Blekemoen in the 69 car, he's also capable of maybe topping Capelli, Siortsis and Lowe there. He wants to strike back for sure.
Yeah, absolutely right. Sebastian Blekemolen needs a strong weekend. Quite a few drivers out of Valencia with some disappointments. He did get himself a top 5, but Sebastian, he wants podiums, he wants victories, and let's see what he can do in this weekend at Vallelunga. Of course, the driver who achieved his greatest accolades in the world of racing, be that FIA GT podiums, victories at the Sebring 12-hour and the Petit Le Mans in the old GTC class for Porsche Cup machines, a multiple-time Clio Cup champion as well, and of course he's been a part of the NASCAR Euro Series fold now since 19, and he had a good amount of pace in 2023 where it seemed like luck was against him more than speed, and then unfortunately went podium free in 2024 as well. His last podium was Brands Hatch 2023, his only victory, Czech Republic 2022. Blake Imola wants some more strong results, and he wants them as soon as possible. Paul Giffreau, on the other hand, of course, he tastes victory seemingly just about everywhere he goes. And of course, for Paul, if there's anywhere where he wants to in victories, let's say, against Vittorio Garelli, it's here, isn't it? If he can get one over on Vittorio on home turf, that makes him feel very strong for the rest of the season in that title fight.
Yeah, definitely. But the only thing is statistics. The past 5 pro races here were won by Italians. Name of Gianmarco Ercoli or Vittorio Garelli. It's quite tough to beat the Italians at their home race, but Paul Giffreau is definitely one of the drivers capable of taking on the fight and try to steal the trophy away from the Italian drivers during their home race here in the number 3 car. I talked to Giffreau and also to his teammate Patrick Schober, and they both said the car was really consistent in race pace trim. They had 0 flaws, 0 issues. The Ford Mustang fielded by RDV competition was at a really good foundation. Now it's all about, is it good enough on the short run in qualifying, or does it only have the race pace? Of course, in the sessions they try different things on different tires, older tires, newer tires. So we have to take a look on what's going on there. So we have the number 3 car crossing the line, and we wait for a time there.
Yeah, let's see. Times will have updated through. Paul Giffreau immediately goes top, a 41.572. So Paul Giffreau not hanging around. I think we might this time in Valencia as well, if my memory serves me well. Giffreau on the money immediately. Martin Dubeck, who's kind of drawn his line in the sand. He says, I don't really get this qualifying format yet. Not got my head around it. Let's see where he stacks up on the first flying lap, of 42.5. That's indeed, but Paul Giffreau already, well, the only man in the 41s and half a second clear of anyone else who's set a time so far. That is very impressive. Speaking of impressive, there's the number 55 car, Fabrizio Armetta for club competition. He usually goes well here on home turf. And for those of you who are regulars at American Speedfest and regulars trackside at the Brands Hatch circuit in general, that's a very Rod Burley livery. If you know, you know. Here's the number 69 car then, Sebastian Blake Imola, 4th fastest. Age 142.520 is his benchmark. Across the line, let's see what his time is. It's a 42.0. That puts Sebastian up to 2nd position. But here's Paul Giffreau looking for an improvement upon what we've already seen. Will he succeed? 41.5 was his benchmark on the first flying lap. It still hasn't come through on my screen. It won 40.945. Goodness me, that's a lap and a half there. I thought that sub 41s would happen, but here they are, live and in living. has even beat a 142 yet. Paul Giffreau is clear of the field at this stage. A 140.945 for him. Sebastian Blekemolen a 42.0. Can Martin Dubeck in 7th place put in a better lap to maybe move into the first couple of rows of the grid? Goes on me just as he comes across the line. He goes second, a 41.896. Now, with the cars remaining, I don't know that he's going to stay there, but all the same, that is a competitive showing for Martin Dubeck. Blekemolen 3rd fastest, Armetta 5th fastest. That's a strong group that we've circuit.
Yeah, definitely. Fabrizio Armetta in 5th, also with a solid lap time. And Giuffreau, he nailed it in the 2nd lap. We saw he was already on the edge, really getting the car to the white lines and trying to get most of the out of the RDV competition car. But now we have some heavyweights coming up. Thomas Crasonis in the 13 car of PK Carsport, the championship leader. The reigning champion Vittorio Ghirelli in the 24 car by PK Carsport. He won here before at home soil, and Ghirelli knows this track like the back of his hand. That also applies to Gianmarco Ercoli in the 11 Alumitech racing car, supported by Carl Racing. He's now also on track. So this is a very interesting group, the last group we have in pro qualifying. And now we're going to see how good the lap time of Paul Giuffreau really was.
Well, the fastest race lap here, by my reckoning, is a 140.814. That was last year with Vittorio Ghirelli, so we know that they can go faster even in race conditions, potentially. However, let's see if they can make it work 2 laps. I think to an extent that this new qualifying format may mean lap times being quicker than qualifying won't always be the case, because of course they only just get the tyres into the operating window seemingly, or at least most drivers seemingly only really get their tyres into the operating window for the final lap of the run. Here is then Liam Hazeman's we saw there. I must say, watching that last queue of 4 cars get ready to leave the pit lane, it was a bit like when you hear a certain song hit in a pro wrestling broadcast in MMA, when there's a certain piece of music that hits. Anything with entrance music applies. Suddenly the mood changes when you hear that song, and when you see the likes of Hazeman's, Ghirelli, Ercoli, and now Thomas Crasonis, who is seemingly firmly establishing himself in this year's pro division in the NASCAR Euro Series, things certainly get a little bit different, and all of the drivers who've come before will be glued to the screen, seeing quite where they end up relative to these 4.
Yeah, Thomas Crasonis, we wait for the first lap time to pop out on our live timing screen. We're still waiting for a lap for the 13 car. I cannot see it right now, so we have to be a little bit patient.
That was the end of his
yes.
warm-up lap. It's
I'm very
Hazeman's who's leading the batch. Yeah, no, it's all right. Hazeman's leads the batch. They got quite... I think Liam was kind of hustling around the circuit, where the other 3 were maybe a little bit slower. There's Gianmarco Ercoli, who's also on his first flying lap now. Liam Hazeman's, I don't think, will be terribly far from completing his first lap, and we'll see where he weighs in from here. Racing number 11, of course, that's the Canadian team that has come into Euro NASCAR in partnership, as you said, with Cal Racing. And if there's anywhere where Gianmarco Ercoli is going to find that extra step to be back on the top step, it's going to be here at Vallelunga. To the partnership, it must be said, last time out in Valencia, that he wants to be on the top step this weekend of all weekends. A 42.492 for Liam Hazeman's. That puts him 7th fastest on the first flying lap. Gianmarco Ercoli's results last time at an 8th, so he's yet to get a top 5 this season. He certainly had the pace for a top 5 at times, and again, he wants to start racking up those accolades. Top 5s, podiums, wins. He wants to start that record book here at Vallelunga. Here comes the number 12 across the line to complete the first flying lap. Vittorio Garelli only goes 8th fastest for the time being, a 42.4. And I believe we've seen one of the others across the line as well. Yes, Chrysonis, a 42.291, puts himself 7th. As for the number 11, he goes 11th. 142.7, so everyone will have expectations of improving on this final flying lap, because I think all 4 of these drivers will firmly believe they should be meeting you for their pole award, Andre.
Yeah, I already have it in my hand, and I also have the Storm watch that we're going to present in the interview after this pro qualifying session. Here we have Liam Hazemans, the Dutchman, in the number 30 of Retta Jones Racing, taking the checkered flag. And can he improve? I guess he can. Still waiting for the update. Adam, do you have something? Yes, second
fastest. Okay, yes, 141.821 for the number 30. That is a very, very promising lap time. What about Thomas Chrysonis? What about the number 24 of Vittorio Garelli? What about Gianmarco Ercoli? Drivers who could intervene not just on that front row for Hazemans, but potentially on that pole for Paul Dufresne. Here comes Chrysonis around the final corner. He'll be looking to match the form and match the results he had in Valencia. He crosses the line and he goes second. A 1.1 for Chrysonis. That's a great lap time. The 24 of Vittorio Garelli has crossed the line. He goes third only. A 141.239. He's kept off the front row there by Chrysonis. What can the 11 do? Gianmarco Ercoli moves up to 4th position. He goes to a 141.479, but it's Paul Dufresne from the previous batch who goes fastest of all, the only man in qualifying to go sub 141.
I go down right now. Congratulations to Paul Dufresne, our Storm Watches pole award winner in pro here in Vallelunga.
A mighty performance from Paul Dufresne. A great showing from all 4 drivers in this last batch as well. They were 2nd through 5th. The only challenge they couldn't surpass was that of Paul Dufresne, who is pole sitter here in the NASCAR Euro Series. But what about this man, Thomas Chrysonis? 2nd on the grid, beating Garelli and Ercoli on home turf in qualifying conditions. That is hugely impressive stuff from the Greek rider. Again, I don't think many people would have put money on him winning a race in both Open and Pro going into Valencia, but that's exactly what he did. He is the points leader in the Pro division. And now, 2nd on the grid. He'll be on that front row for the start of the race. That is a really good showing from Chrysonis. But Paul Dufresne will be the pole sitter. He'll be running from the garage to meet Andre for the pole award presentation. There was some talk of a deleted lap for Vittorio Garelli, but that's now been rescinded. So I think everyone has been deemed legal from a track limits perspective as well. But the cars just being put into assembly at the moment. Thomas Chrysonis going towards the weighbridge, I believe, there. Paul Dufresne, I think, is going to be a happy boy. Here's Gianmarco Ercoli. The number 11 car is making its way. Garage 4th place, not bad by any means from Gianmarco. He'll be looking to at least be in that 4th position and indeed fighting for podiums in this first race. Again, he'll be disappointed with no top 5. in Valencia, and certainly Illumitech Racing will have high hopes for the drivers' home event, with Cal Racing, of course, also a part of the setup. It's their home event too. So Illumitech Racing will be watching on with keen interest. Paul Giffreau, of anybody, he tops the standings in qualifying. Thomas Cressonis, second fastest. Vittorio Garelli, third fastest. Gianmarco Ercoli in fourth position. Liam Hasemans, fifth fastest. Martin Dubeck in sixth place. Sebastian Blakemolen in Sergio Capelli in eighth. Fabrizio Armetta and Vladimiros Siortzis rounding out your top 10, and therefore your first 5 rows of the grid for the Euro NASCAR Pro Race later on today. Garrett Lowe, 11th ultimately. So Garrett Lowe just outside, and given the lack of mileage that he's had on the circuit with issues in Friday practice, I don't think that's a disappointment at all for Garrett and promotion. Mark Goosens, 12th. Ulysse Delso, 13th. A big surprise to my eye, Ivan Muller, only 14th on the... Won't be happy with that. He said that he thought he could do better than he did at Valencia effectively, and, well, not in qualifying, unfortunately. Maybe not quite the circuit knowledge here that he has at the circuit Ricardo Tormo, but all the same, we know Ivan should be further up the order. 50th, Jack Davidson, 16th. Julian Reberg, David Kajaya, Giorgio Maggi, Max Maserati and Mikael Blakemolen, your finishing order in the qualifying session of the Pro Class. You can see there Patrick Schauber getting himself warmed up and ready to go. He's looking to make an impact, as he always does, in the Euro NASCAR Open Division. They're qualifying a little bit more straightforward. They just run until the wheels come off, but not literally. Andre Vigol is with Paul.
Thank you so much, Adam. I'm here with the Strom Watches Pole Award winner in Vallelunga. A beautiful piece you have there again. You not only had one good lap like the others were good in the second lap. You had 2 amazing laps. How did you do that?
It's my little secret. No, I mean, yeah, the first lap, I don't know if the camera was on me at the out lap, but if you could watch it, the car was moving everywhere, so I was really hitting those tires really hard. I was little bit of goosebump inside the car, so it was all the work, and it's pay off. So yeah, we will continue like that. I think that we shown to everyone that we are good in qualifying, and we will continue this way all the year. I want to gain this watch, so I will gain all the pole award possible, and yeah, we will continue this job. RDV made a brilliant job, and yeah, we got this pole position, and yeah, so we are starting P1. It's the best place to start a race. So yeah, we will see the race. Yesterday I made quite a long run with the tire, with all tire, to see how were the car, and it was just amazing. So I was confident for the race and not for the qualifying, so to get in pole is really a big surprise.
All right, congratulations. Thank you so much. Just present the watch and the pole award here, and back to you, Adam, now.
There we go, the Strom Watches Pole Award presented to driver of the number 3, Paul Giffreau. Giffreau striking with a great performance, and one that it sounds like he didn't see coming, but all the same, pole position, a fabulous achievement. And well, the last 5 wins in Euro NASCAR Pro have hasten to try and speculate when the last non-Italian front row happened here, but it is the Frenchman Paul Giffreau, followed by the Greek Thomas Cressonis on that front row of the grid here at the circuit Ricardo Tormo. The strongholds may have to wait for the race. So the Open Division is up next. They'll be out on circuit in a few minutes' time, and it won't be a repeat of the same format. It will be just a straight run, a 20-minute session for everybody to try and get in. So more of a traditional qualifying, and that does have the effect, with them inevitably doing more than 2 flying laps, that will have the effect of them maybe putting some more mileage on the Hoosier tyres going into their first race later on in the afternoon. Of course, they're a bit shorter, so maybe they can take some liberties in regard to that. 11 minutes still green, reckons the Strom Watches countdown, so we have a little bit of time here to take stock. Look at the home of Euro NASCAR in Italy now for several years, the Autodromo Vallelunga, although it's has hosted a great many different events over the years. It opened all the way back in 1951, so it's one of the older venues that we visit, although it wasn't tarmacked until a little bit later on. It was initially a dirt circuit first and foremost, and I believe it used to be a horse track as well. 2.8 miles. I don't know whether it's by design that so many of our circuits are almost exactly 2.5 miles in length, but it means that we don't have to change the lap counter very often. A lot of our races end up being 18 laps in Pro and 15 laps in Euro NASCAR 2. But yeah, that's of course changing when we get to Brands Hatch, because it's a very short layout, and of course then in Venray as well. June is the month of the bull rings, be it the road course at Brands or indeed when we go oval racing in Venray. Garelli is always a reserved man. It's not often I see him beaming, but he's not looking to me particularly delighted with how that qualifying went. He'll be disappointed to be off the front row, but certainly he looks a little bit perturbed. And it was interesting listening to you with Paul Dufresne. He seemed as surprised as anybody that he was on pole.
Yeah, definitely. But, you know, he's fully dedicated to this Euro NASCAR program, and he already showed a decent pace yesterday in free practice. Like I said, the number 3 car ran through smooth, had no issues at all. They found a really good race trim, and what we didn't see, but we saw it now in qualifying, that they also find a really good qualifying setup for the number 3 car. Here we have Paul Dufresne, the Frenchman, next to him on the left side. That's Franck Viola. This is the team owner of RDV competition, the team boss, and of course with the back to us, that's Frédéric Gabillon, a multi-time vice champion in the NASCAR Euro Series, also a former pro racer, of course, still involved at RDV competition as a advisor, let's say it like this, and also driving coach. Of course, he knows everything about the NASCAR Euro Series. He was in so many title battles in the past, and he's sharing his experience with Paul Dufresne and RDV competition. They are a championship-winning team, so yeah, they are always up front. They are always competitive. You always have to keep them on your notes. And Dufresne made the first step to beat the Italians, but qualifying is qualifying. A race is something different.
And I think this is one of the circuits with the hardest run to the first braking zone. I mean, well, depends. I think braking through those sweepers at least on the first lap. The challenge of that first sequence can't be understated, really. But going through the Curva Grande, as it's called, turn 2, especially when you start with your opponent, is notable, and it's one of those first few corners where I could absolutely see one of the guys from the second row of the grid ending up in the lead by the end of the first sector, just based on maybe some dramas top 2 up front. It's a pretty difficult first section to navigate, especially side by side.
We take a look inside the car racing box. We saw Luca Canioli, the team owner of car racing, there, and also Roberto Benedetti, one of the open drivers. Here we have the 89 car. Max Maserati was the pro, the British driver, and he's sharing the car with an Italian newcomer who's being in the car in the open group qualifying. And the group qualifying is something completely different compared to what we saw in pro. They can now choose how many laps they want to try. They have 15 minutes. They can do whatever they want. That also means that the drivers will be maybe on different tire wear starting into the first race. Of course, in open, it's the same. You get one set of Hoosier tires before qualifying, and they have to last qualifying in 2 races. But if you nail a lap early and you just be out there for, let's say, 4 laps, this may be an advantage over a driver who needs 15 laps in qualifying, or okay, in 50 minutes it's almost impossible. Let's say 8 laps. This can be a difference. Here we have Gianmarco Ercoli. Of course, he wants to strike back with the Alumitic Racing team, also talking to the head figures here at Carl Racing, trying to find the next steps. They don't have a lot of time before the next race, so we have to see how it all develops and also what happens now in open.
Yeah, really interesting to get a look at some of the drivers debriefing, and also to get a look at some of the cars up close and personal. You notice little things that maybe you wouldn't under normal circumstances. One thing I did notice on the 24 PK car sport car was the Pepsi logos on the front of that car. And that's always interesting to see, isn't it? More major global brands appearing on these Euro NASCAR machines. I've noticed that in the last year or two. It feels like when new sponsors a team or join a team in a driver's program, the sponsor always seems to be that little bit higher quality perhaps than a few years ago. It feels as though the prestige of Euro NASCAR is going up, and with it the money being funded sponsors, the sales pitch from drivers seems to be getting stronger, and with it comes some very recognizable brands.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you saw the Strom watches for the Pole Award. Beautiful pieces that we have there. We have the Wheel and Start Zone, the former name sponsoring of the championship, still involved with all their security and safety equipment. There are a lot of brands involved in Euro NASCAR, and I think the ingredients for a perfect meal there, those are that you have the access for the fans. They drive in front of thousands of fans here at different racetracks around Europe. You have the live coverage, social media, and also you're in the classic media. So, and with all that, you have the NASCAR brand on top of it. One of the most successful racing stories in history. Of course, the NASCAR Cup Series still the pinnacle of motorsports in the United States of America. And we already talked about Thomas Crasones. Remember, he's coached by Alon Day, a 4-time NASCAR Euro Series champion, and he announced that he's going to do 3 road course races in ARCA racing soon. There's still the bridge between NASCAR America and NASCAR in Europe. It's NASCAR.
Yeah, exactly right. The bridges globally are expanding off, of course. We have Garrett Lowe here, an American racer looking to make his name here on the stage. We had much the same last year with Ryan Vargas, who last week was racing ARCA Menards and is now this weekend racing in the NASCAR Canada Series. So friend of the broadcast and friend of the series, Ryan Vargas, North America, and certainly flying the flag for Euro NASCAR there as well. I know he loved his time in the series, and he's certainly speculating that we might not have seen the last of him by any means. But yeah, it is really fascinating to see that kind of web of global, be it the Mexican series, the fairly newly founded Brazilian series. Of course, Canada's always or at least in my living memory, Canada's always had a really strong NASCAR series of its own, and then you've got the national categories, the Cup Series, the Xfinity, the Trucks, and indeed the Arca Series as well. But we are the only truly international, of course, NASCAR series. We do one round in every country that we visit. Of course, this year the NASCAR Cup Series heads to Mexico. More of an international proposition, and I think will continue to become more of an international proposition, certainly with the heightened popularity of the NASCAR discipline globally. I think we will start to see that little bit more global outreach in terms of the calendar, but in the pantheon of racing, we are fairly unique because every time we pull up to a circuit, it's in a different country, it's within a different culture, and what we see wherever we pull up is a strong and numerically significant fan base for NASCAR racing in Europe.
Yeah, definitely. By the way, I was trying to listen to Thomas Krasonis there when he was sitting already in the cockpit. He talked to Anthony Kumpen, the owner of PK Sport, also a former NASCAR Euro Series Pro champion. We have a lot of people in the paddock still around after being successful in the series. Frédéric Gabillon, Alon Day, Anthony Kumpen, they may not be racing anymore, but they are still involved in the series, and that's also a good sign that the legends are still tied to the series. We still have red lights in the pit box, but they are lining up in front. It's Tomasz Dąbrowski in the 24 car. He's sharing with Vittorio Ghirelli, and of course now everybody's lining up for the open qualifying. Remember, those are the same machineries out there like we saw in Pro. They just changed tires to the open driver set of Rougier tires, and that's it. Of course, they here and then changed a little bit the seat positions, and that's it. They share one car, the same car. Now the lights are green and we're ready for the open qualifying.
Well, with so many legends in the paddock, we do have to be careful, Andre, both you and me, that they don't come for our jobs like Clint Boyer and Kevin Hart. We need to watch our backs. But the open qualifying session has begun then. 15 minutes, as you said. Doesn't look like we have a clock on this, but the session began around 30 seconds past 9:55, so the hour when the final laps are being registered, and of course track position is a greater consideration and a greater commodity in this format as well. Everybody will be looking for a good place to get those first laps in, because to your earlier point and our earlier conversation on, if you go out there and immediately set a 140, then sure, that's it. Go back in. Don't waste your Rougier tyres on trying to go faster and faster, given a 140.8 was good enough for the front row in Euronaut Pro. You maybe don't want to waste a bunch of tyres if you get a quick lap in early doors. So then, people to watch out for in this race. I'm interested to see the progress of some of our debutants, I must say, because we had some really strong. I remember Bruno Mulders from last time out, the Open Division debutant, a Dutch karting champion moving into car racing here in the NASCAR Euro Series, and in his second ever motor race in a car, he goes and finishes second here in Euro NASCAR Open. Number 72. Team Blake and Merlin car.
I'm really sorry, I just lost you a second. Sorry, I thought there was silence. I'm really sorry for that. And we see that Bruno Mulders is now having a little bit of clean air. Okay, there's traffic coming with the 55 car, but he's towing a little bit his teammate, and Melvin de Groot in the 69 car. They both got past Tomasz Dąbrowski on the opening lap. The 55 car not in the way. That's really good for Bruno Mulders and also for Melvin de Groot. So the team Blakemon drivers, they try to work together. Of course, we are on a road course. It's nothing like Daytona or Talladega where you need the tow and the drag, but maybe it's a little bit of an advantage to go next to each other, line up and work together, manage the traffic together, and maybe even give Melvin de Groot a little bit of a toe on the long straights that we have here in Vallelunga. And also Bruno Milders, he can always take a look into his rear mirrors and see if Melvin de Groot is pushing or not. So he has a little bit of a benchmark if he's fast enough or not. I like the strategies we have here, Tim Blakemole.
I understand there's some concern down at the Retty Jones Racing camp. Mr. isn't A1. He's been reporting illness for the last few hours or so, or at least last night into this morning, and we're not sure whether he's actually going to be in that Retty Jones Racing number 30. We need to keep an eye on that. There's also a car slowing there on pit exit. Didn't see who that was, but we do have a car slowing down, and of course that's the last thing anybody wants, especially those who are on a flying lap. Everybody who's currently on a flying lap is going to be hoping that they complete said lap before any flag interventions of any. Fastest lap time initially, as the early times come in, a 43.198 from Melvin de Groot, and we'll see how the others fare.
I think it's, I wanted to confirm it's Giovanni Faraonio in the 22 car, the second club competition car this weekend. They had an extra car for their home race, and Faraonio, who already raced in Euro NASCAR last year in a part-time, is back for his home race, but he is having some kind of issues. So the Team Blakemole drivers a little bit also in issues because they had to get past Sven van Laere, who switched from Marco Stipp Motorsport to Speedhouse in the 64 car, replacing their Matthias Hauer, who had to cancel his plans coming back to the NASCAR Euro Series due to health issues as well. And I can confirm that Jill Linster has some health issues. We have to wait if he's showing up for qualifying or not, but that's of course a really big setback for the championship leader. He did not won a single race in Valencia, but his consistency was key to conquer the open lead after 2 races, and if he's missing out this qualifying, it's going to be a really tough battle for him, and we have to still wait if he's able to race later on or not.
Yeah, that is a significant consideration, isn't it? Last time out in the open division in Valencia, it sort of felt like he was the only one who was towards the sharp end in both races. Martin Dubek had his problems, and then he won the second race. Thomas Grosso was a winner on Saturday and then ended up having issues on Sunday. Of the front runners, not many of them were consistently up front last time in Euro NASCAR Open, and it was Jill Linster who benefited from keeping himself on the straight and narrow. So is out on the circuit, so that's going to halt everybody's process and take crucial minutes away, as well as maybe some crucial degrees centigrade out of those tyres as well. Now, regarding Jill Linster, our championship leader, of course, top scores to consider in regular season as well, so that can help him a bit, but as I recall, from last year onwards, we dropped down to just the 1 drop score, didn't we? So if he misses the full weekend, he's still going to be in trouble.
Yeah, definitely. It's just a 1 result you're going to drop after the regular season, after the round at Autodromo in the Czech Republic. So you can afford 1 bad result over the regular season before going into the double point playoffs in Oschersleben, Germany, and Circuit Zolder in Belgium. And the full course yellow is out for Giovanni Faraonio. The marshals are quickly there to give him a push. Maybe he can get the car fired up again, the 22 car of club competition. Of course, here I have to say thank you to all the volunteers and also to the marshals making motorsport happen again. I saw them gathering up in the morning, motivating each other, the Orange Army here in Italy. They are always doing a great job.
Yeah, they are. The marshals are always exemplary everywhere we go, and as you say, volunteers, these are the people that really I feel, more than just about anybody, to put themselves into a situation where they're working. Believe me, it's not necessarily just access to a slightly better spectator position. These guys are working hard and making it each and every weekend in motorsport across the world. And we always doff our cap to the volunteer marshals, the guys and girls, often in orange in the UK at least, but colour palette may vary depending on where you are. But always great to have the marshals. And as always, the Vallelunga marshals making a brisk job of recovery. I suspect full course yellow will be lifted fairly quickly, but once it is lifted, we're going to have a half dozen minutes left. And we'll have to see how everybody performs. Thomas Toffel is coming in as we go in, so the green flag is out as everybody just now gets that memo. Well, the 55 certainly hasn't got the memo just yet, but the number 3 speeding past might give a clue. Almost exactly 6 minutes to go then as everybody fires back into life. And for those who were on the start-finish straight, that's frustrating, because if they didn't get the run out of the final corner, this lap is effectively, well, it's not going to be any good, is it? They're going to have lost 2 or 3 tenths at a bare minimum by default before they even get to the first corner.
Yeah, definitely. It's another outlap for them, and that is going to limit their attempts, of course, as well. Patrick Schober is taking away a little bit the pace, taking out the pace of his car. Capelli passes the number 3 car. Capelli at the moment the fastest driver with a 1:42.126 ahead of Patrick Schober. Then we have a very talented driver in Bruno Mulders in the 3rd place, who already impressed with his performance in Valencia. De Groot, Dombrowski, Benedetti, Toffel, and then Mario Ercoli, the younger brother, stepbrother of half-brother, I have to say, of Gianmarco Ercoli, Valentino Gambarotto, another rookie in this championship. So we have a lot of interesting names racing in Open this year. And after this full course yellow situation, Adam, I think we have a little bit the same situation like in Pro, but you have to manage the traffic.
Yeah, that's the key difference here, isn't it? You've got people doing different things, their tyres, or running at full tilt. Others maybe just trying to diagnose a little bit of a technical issue with the car, coming back into the pits to make some adjustments and head back out there. Everyone's doing something different at this stage of the session, and that does make it hard what's going to happen in front of you. There is Claudio Remeggio Capelli giving it full beans through Curva Grande, right on the limit of adhesion. He is currently the fastest man out there on the circuit, a 1:42.126. Capelli is currently at the top, but he is going to be hustling upon that lap time to make sure that remains the case. His next closest competition is Patrick Schober on a 1:42.8, and well, we know that the gulf in performance between the Open division and the Pro division isn't much. A lot of the Pro drivers who often frequent the are also in this race, so he knows, I think, that ultimately a 1:42.1 isn't going to cut it. That wasn't the best of runs through the hairpin there. That will have cost him a little bit of time, Claudio Remeggio Capelli. And I was just alluding to the fact that some of the fastest drivers in Pro are in Open, and just as I said, this goes top on a 1:41.871, rather proving my point. To be fast and up front in Open, you need to be one of the best drivers in the paddock, full stop.
Yeah, now look at this. Claudio Remeggio Capelli loses a lot of time because he couldn't get past Sven van Laar in the Speedhouse car. And this is a difference between Pro and Open. In the Open, you have the challenge to manage the traffic. He's now trying it on the inside. He dives to the inside on the last corner. But again, Sven van Laar is closing the door a little bit. Of course, he's on his own flying lap. This is the current leader on the leaderboard. Don't look onto the left at the moment. The tower is not accurate. Thomas Cazon is a 1:41.871. He's faster than Patrick Schober in second. Martin Dubeck in third, and Capelli he tumbled down the order into 4th place ahead of Bruno Milders, and I think his last lap wasn't an improvement because of the traffic issues he had. At the moment, Thomas Crasones has a little bit of free air, clean air, so maybe the next lap could even be better.
Quite possibly the case, yes. We'll see what Crasones does then. He's coming through the final corner in his number 13 PK car sport machine. Let's see, 41.871 is the time. Thomas Toffel has done a 141.838 to go top for the time being. However, Crasones improves, a 141.802. Interesting to see Toffel go top. Saw him come into the pits during that full course yellow, or just as the full course yellow ended. I'm guessing he will have made a slight tyre pressure adjustment or something like that, just a momentary little adjustment to the setup, and clearly he's got some good feel, hasn't he, in the car, in the Camaro, because whatever he did, it works.
Yeah, definitely. Thomas Toffel, of course, he has a lot of experience in Euro NASCAR. This is what he's sharing with Ivan Muller, and Ivan Muller is coming with just brutal racecraft and talent. And this combination is really interesting at M Racing, the team of Ivan Muller and Thomas Toffel. I think when he gets the consistency in, he may also be in contention for the Open title. I think what he's missing a little bit is this breakthrough race, this one race that's giving him the confidence of pushing the car to the limit all the times. When he's getting this race win in, getting into victory lane, I think he will be a different person, a different driver. Here we have a person, a driver, a character in the Euro NASCAR paddock who knows what it takes to be a champion. A two-time champion in Open, and one of the coolest guys I've ever met. Always open, always having a lot of fun, Martin Dubeck. And he has also the heart on his tongue, like we would say in Germany. He's always freaking totally open.
I like heart on tongue, actually. That's might be better than heart on sleeve, to be honest. Martin Dubeck, where is he in the standings currently? 5th. He would be looking for maybe a little bit better than that. He comes across the line to see the checkered flag. Now, what kind of time was his final flying lap? We'll have to wait and see on that front. He only did 4 laps, and the 4th of them was a 1:852, so that puts him well up the standings. Crasones has done a 41.339, so he's almost exactly half a second clear of this man, Thomas Toffel, who has Ariana Casoli now just ahead of him, and I'm not sure that that's going to necessarily help his time. I think that perhaps he's already the lap, unfortunately, Thomas Toffel. Can anybody beat a 141.339 from Thomas Crasones then? That's the big question. Capelli goes second fastest, a 41.515. Any other sudden improvements from further down the order? We are awaiting the lap. Last few cars left across the line before the session concludes. I think that Thomas Crasones may well have done enough here, a 141.339, and I'm not seeing any imminent signs of improvement from further down the order. Looks like, Andre, you're going to be meeting with a strong watch.
Yes, definitely. I'm heading down right now to get Thomas Crasones in front of a camera. Goodbye, see you later in the race.
Excellent stuff, Andre. We'll hear from him one last time in the broadcast, of course, down there with Thomas Crasones. Crasones on top, proving to be the benchmark again in the Euro NASCAR Open division. Very weirdly, he's leading Pro but not leading Open, but that's partially because Sunday morning in Valencia, of course, went against him. He had a bit of a drama, to put it lightly, at the first corner on the first lap in Valencia. He'll be looking to have a better start from pole position here in the Open division later on in the day. So then, Thomas Crasones is your pole sitter after that qualifying session, a 141.339. Benchmark. Looks like Claudio Remeggio Capelli hasn't got the memo that the session's ended. He's just gone to start another lap. He is second, Thomas Toffel third, Martin Dubeck 4th, Patrick Schauber in 5th. And that is all of our front runners. Unfortunately, not Linster up at the sharp end of the field. Linster, we hope to hear that he'll be at least taking part in the race, but no qualifying from Linster. Just the 19 cars, therefore, in that session. There's Thomas Dombrowski in the number 24 PK Car Sport machine. He was 6th fastest that session. Mulder's 7th, Benedetti 8th, De Groot and Tavak Galatza rounding out the top 10. The Georgian drivers in 10th place then. That'll be a wee disappointment, I think, for Tavak Galatza after Valencia. I think he found to a little bit better. Now that number 9 car, of course, new to them for this weekend, but last time he he managed 2 6th places, so he's a little bit off his own performance from last time by qualifying 10th. Thomas Chrysonis on pole then in the number 30 Car Sport car. It doesn't say PK Car Sport, it says Speedhouse, but I promise that's not correct. Claudio Capelli 2nd, Thomas Torfel 3rd, Martin Dubeck in 4th, Patrick Schauber in 5th position, Thomas Dombrowski in 6th, Bruno Mulders 7th, Roberto 8th, Melvin de Groot in 9th, and Sandro Tavak Kalatsa rounding out the top 10. So then the cars will head back into the briefly before we go back to live broadcast later on in the day. It's a full day of action here, of course, as always. Our first racing will begin at 13, or at least the broadcast will begin at 13:55. That is the NASCAR division, of course, setting their stage later on. So in a couple of hours' time, we will see the first of the racing action. There is Thomas Chrysonis, along with our media colleague Gianluca, walking the moment, and we'll see Thomas Chrysonis receive his Strom Pole Award in the next few moments. There is the number 5 car of Claudio Remeggio Capelli. He took a few laps to come in, actually. I think he did an extra flying that car into the garage at the moment. But Claudio Remeggio Capelli up at the sharp end, as he would want to be here in particular at the Autodromo Vallelunga. This is a circuit that Claudio wants to succeed at, but Thomas Chrysonis has succeeded in qualifying.
Conversations going on between Paul Giuffreau and Thomas Chrysonis. Oops, he did it again. You're here back again. Pole Award for you.
Yeah, it's good. Because before I say anything, I have to say thank you to my sponsors, Costa Mare, Dodoni, my coach Paul Tibas, my trainer Alon Day, and my team PK Car Sport for creating this whole project. And yeah, I think as I told you before, we prepare a lot for every weekend. We were ready for this one. We showed it in the track. Paul stole again a pole position, but I will take the next one. Be sure for this. But all in all, I think we are in a very good spot. All that is left is to do a good start. As I told you in Spain, I'm trying to learn, to start from P1. So yeah, just to be patient, not to make any mistakes. And I think by far we have the, if not the best, top 3 pace here for sure.
The full course yellow reduced the time in the open qualifying a lot. You had a lot of traffic, of course, going on track. How was it for you?
Well, okay. I mean, I cannot complain because at some point I was where the other drivers were. So it's normal. The Open Championship also has the rookie drivers who are trying to learn, who are not who are not getting up to speed so easy. At some point I was where they were. So I understand the traffic. I just have to be calm, find the space, try again. It's a little bit unfortunate because we took a lot from the tires, but still P1 is P1, so I cannot complain.
All right, thank you so much. Congratulations, the Storm Watches Pole Award winner in Open, Thomas Chrysonis.
There we go, Thomas Chrysonis reacting with and I would say more than a little bit of confidence coming out of that qualifying session. The teams continue to debrief and then prepare for the racing action ahead here in the NASCAR Euro Series, the third races of the season in both the Pro and the Open divisions. This afternoon, 13:55 local time, we will see the Euro NASCAR Pro broadcast fire into life in about 2 hours and at 40 minutes we'll see that, and then Euro NASCAR Open, the race for which we just saw the qualifying Sonis on pole, that will begin at 16:40 p.m. But make sure you join us at 13:55 for the first of 2 races today here at the Autodromo di Vallelunga. The American Festival of Rome has kicked off with some very interesting qualifying that lead us to believe we're in for a thriller of a race weekend.